Hello everybody and welcome back to the RemedyCraft server. As you'll have noticed from the first couple of time lapses, I've been very busy this week. First of all, I decided to make a little mini game for everyone else on the server. This was a maze, it's plain and simple, a straightforward maze that once completed they'll have a bit of a prize at the end. They can decide for themselves what prize they want because I've actually put some tokens at the end. That way I can tailor the prizes to people's needs. In the second half of that time lapse, you'll notice that the roof of this villager trading hall has been changed. Originally it was all stone, andesite, granite, that kind of stuff. But me and King changed it out to deep slate bricks, as well as just regular cobbled deep slate and also cracked deep slate bricks. And we're being visited by apple juice. Other than that, I've mainly just been tidying up the place. You'll notice that the tracks to get the rest of the villagers into their places has gone. So I've got all my villagers now, all nicely lined up. And I will be trading with them to get them up to master level at some point soon, but probably not in this episode. I managed to finish off the entire flooring with the deep slate bricks and the regular cobbled deep slate slabs. And even though you probably wouldn't have actually noticed, I've changed the stairwell here. I've actually moved it forward 4 blocks. You'll see why in a sec, but because of the positioning of the staircase, it just wasn't quite in the right place, so I've had to move it forward to make more space up on top. So for the most part, this has just been really the tedious parts of things that pointless showing on camera because it just doesn't really add any value to you guys. But you can see the progress I've been making. It has taken quite a few days just to sort of even everything out, get everything the way I want it to. Like I've changed all this netherrack out. It was all stone before. I was kind of thinking that with the fact that I've used netherrack for this lava pool for my iron farm, having this kind of corner of it will actually be quite in keeping with the rest of everything else. But the main thing that I've done this week, really trying to get a feel for what this build's going to actually look like, was to build up some templates and design ideas for the actual build itself. And this is what I've come up with so far. As you can see from before, we've got this staircase going up to the top here, and then now we've got these massive pillars. These are 2x2 warped stem. Now this is a quite expensive build for this type of material, but it's going to be definitely worth it. As you can see at the bottom here, I've used staircases, both the right way up and upside down, just to add some interest to the bottom of the pillars, and I've done that top and bottom as well. That's all going to be capped off with a main beam kind of going across all the top of that, and then it's going to have the roof on top of that. But if we look to the inside, you can kind of see that I've laid out where certain things are going to be going. On the right hand side and left hand side here, this is going to be my auto storage system. I'm going to have the enchanting table down here, and then there's going to be a super smelter here as well. Obviously this bit in the center is the bit that goes down to the villager trader. And I've also marked out where the rest of these pillars are going to go. So each of these 2x2 red squares, you can see all the way around, is just going to be more and more of these pillars. So there's quite a lot to do, quite a lot of materials I'm going to have to get. I'm probably going to have to take another trip to the nether, plus also farm some of this myself. I might even outsource it to someone else if I can pay someone to mine some of this stuff or farm it for me. But there's going to be quite a lot of it going all the way around there. And I think it's going to look absolutely boss. Of course, I've got my massive nether portal as well. I just thought, why not? If I'm going to do a mega build, I might as well have that as well. It's pretty raining again. Now, I should mention that this yellow section is actually what the inside building is going to look like. I'll throw a picture up on screen right now of my inspiration and the kind of template, the guide that I'm using to get the structure right. So all these pillars are going to be on the outside. The yellow is going to be the inside building itself. And I wanted the nether portal to actually come to the edge of all this. But unfortunately, it was about 30 blocks or so, 32 blocks-ish, going across the bottom there for the width of this building. But unfortunately, the max that you can build nether portals is 23 by 23. So I've had to scale it down a little bit. So it's a bit more square, but it is in fact 20 blocks going upwards and 22 going along the bottom. So it's not quite square, but still it's absolutely massive and really quite grand when you're stood below it. So that's the progress I've made up to now. My next job is to continue with these pillars all the way around. It's going to take a while, but I'm super excited to see how this turns out. So this means we've got to jump into another time lapse. Let's go. think I severely underestimated just how many resources this was going to take. The warp stem was an absolute pain to get. I had to go to the nether a couple of times, but I also used a rather rubbish manual farm behind me there to try and farm more of this stuff. As you can see, I've got the Nylium blocks at the bottom there, and I was putting the warp fungus on the top of there, bone milling it until it grew, and then I was climbing the ladder and then mining from the top downwards. It seemed to be the most efficient way of doing it without building an actual auto farm. I did look into the one that RazeWorks has done, but I think for the amount that I needed, it wasn't going to be worth building an auto farm. If I was doing like, double this or triple this or another project that needs massive amounts of this stuff, then yeah, I think in the future maybe I'll consider it. My other problem was that I need a lot more of the warp fungus. So I kind of adapted a flower farm that I got from RemedyCraft, I think it was. And instead I've just used the Nylium blocks in the bottom there instead of grass. But underneath here it's got a dispenser with all the bone meal in it. And then it's got the note blocks on the top with the observers, which fires all the redstone out and makes it go backwards and forwards. I'll be warned, it is a little bit loud. And then just from that little bit there, that's produced quite a few resources there. You've got loads of warp roots. I mean, I've got way too much of this stuff. Warp fungus is just for it being on that short time. I've got 31 of them. Crimson fungus. I don't actually have any of the red ones. I'm not quite sure what that one's called. Crimson something or other. But if I wanted to make the red wood, the crimson wood, then I'd have to go to Nether and get some of the red version of this stuff. Other than that, I'm super happy with the progress that I'm making so far. I think the pillars are really adding that ancient Greek style to it, but with a really unique twist. Now, based on the reference photo that I showed earlier, this all will be getting capped off, and then there'll be a roof put on top of that. And then where you can see this yellow box inside the pillars, that's going to be a complete box room, and then in there I'm going to have the farms, as I mentioned earlier. Now, one of my next jobs to do is the storage system, because I've been desperately needing one of these for a long time. And as you can see, my chest monster down here is getting a little bit out of hand. It's an absolute mess down here. I've got shulker boxes everywhere, just full of random stuff, and lots of double chests doing the exact same. So now that I've done a few bits for the aesthetic of the build, I think it's now time that we do some more of the function stuff to actually make it fit for purpose. So this has been normally where I jump into another time lapse. Not just yet. I'm actually going to show you guys block for block how I'm going to build this storage system, and of course I'll credit whoever came up with this design in the description below. So without further ado, let's jump in. So this is a design that I'm going to be using for my auto storage system. It was actually invented by Impulse SV, I think in around about 2014, but the video that I've seen to actually build this, the tutorial, was done by Pixel Riffs. But just to give you a quick overview, essentially the way that this works is you would have a line of hoppers coming all the way around here, feeding this top hopper. You're going to have junk in the last 4 slots, reserving this open slot for the item that you want to actually filter. When this hopper gets fuller, the comparator then sees the update and puts out a much stronger redstone signal, which then in turn powers this repeater, turns off the torch, which is locking the hopper, and allows the items to flow through into the storage system. Now, of course, the reason why only the item that you put in here gets filtered through is because with the junk being here, that will not filter through, therefore other items won't filter through because all these slots are then filled up. So if I use this redstone dust as an example, you'll see when I put it in, the redstone torch here turns off, the items are allowed to flow through into this chest, and then when this reaches 41, the redstone signal out of here becomes weaker, turns back on this redstone torch, and then locks the hopper. Now, while this is actually a really simple redstone circuit, it did take me a little bit of time to get used to it because I'm not massively well up on redstone, but once I did start to understand it, it made perfect sense, and it was actually really easy to build. If you'd like to hear about this storage system in more depth, I will leave a link to Impulse's video as well as Pixel Riffs. So I'll just give you a quick tutorial on how to build this. You got a chest there, a couple of hoppers going into those, another chest on top of that, a hopper going into that. Then we'll build the back bit. I've raised this up ever so slightly off the floor just so I could get another chest in. You don't need to have 3, you can have more, you can have less, it's entirely up to you. Redstone repeater goes in there, redstone torch there, comparator pointing outwards from the hopper, a hopper going in. Now the strange thing about this system, but also the ingenious thing about this system, is that when I put this redstone dust down here, they're going to link up, but because of the way that the comparator in the system works, they don't actually interact with one another, which again I think is super cool. Then into this top hopper, we're going to put the junk, and then this leaves this open for anything that we want to put in, anything that we want to filter. So let's do a quick test. If I throw a full stack of redstone dust in there and a full stack of torches in there, you'll see that the system activates, these torches have turned off, everything's getting filtered through, Torches in this one, redstone dust in that one. The torches come back on, everything gets locked, and like I say, everything is filtered correctly. Now, of course, the only thing that's going to get replaced in all this is that on top of these hoppers, there will be another line of input hoppers. So if you are building something like this, it's probably best to have an iron farm, like I've got mine up there, and then also maybe have some kind of wood farm or forest nearby, because you're going to need a lot of wood. So essentially, that's the entire system. Like I say, if you want more information, I'll leave links in the description below. But for now, I'm just going to build up this side, so I'll jump back in when that's done.
3 hours later.
Okay, so I may have gone a little bit overboard here. As you can see, I decided to build up both sides, and I've actually filled all of the slots in. It's projects like this that time really flies when you get stuck in, and before I know it, I've built the whole thing. But let me just take you around how this works. So I've got this input chest here, and I throw any bits of junk that I've got in there, and then it'll get filtered through some hoppers that I've got going underground here. The dropper down there spits them out via like a redstone clock type thing that I've got going on there, up the bubble elevator, and into this hopper line. From there, obviously, as we said earlier, we've got the junk in here, and then we've got the actual filter item here. So it goes along all of these hoppers, and whenever it comes across a slot that it recognizes, it'll filter that item into the chests, and then the rest of it carries on all the way around. There's actually 64 spaces here, and I filled them up incredibly quick. It dawned on me about halfway through that I probably should have actually made these a lot bigger. That being said, I'm not really trying to filter every single item. That would be a bit ridiculous. Just the essentials that I have quite a lot of, or I'm going to need a lot of in the future. So along here, I've got all the different types of wood. I was going to have a junk chest at the end here, and then I realized that it actually still needs to have a filter item, so I just filled it in afterwards. Kind of bad planning on my part there, to be honest, but then I just extended the hopper line here, and I've got some junk going into here. And then just a few other bits along this edge here, terracotta on this edge, and then as you can see along here, we've got obsidian, prismarine, sea lanterns, etc. all the way across here, black stone, bricks, stone, sand, gravel, whatever. In some of these chests, I'll have the filter item itself, then I'll have some other things in there that are kind of related to it. Like you see here, I've got moss blocks. In this one, I've got rooted dirt. Under glass, I've got the glass panes as well. If I had more room, I would have put more chests in. But unfortunately, that's a bit of an oversight on my part. Just means in Season 2, I can build this bigger and better. So a few other items like gunpowder, TNT, dyes, that kind of thing. Anything that I don't need a lot of, I'm just going to store in these chests here next to my throne. It's just a simple design. I might change this up afterwards. It was a temporary thing that I just kind of threw together. I quite like the look of it. I may put some banners or something up here. We'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, that's all I've got time for in this episode. In the next one, I will be looking at building the actual inner room here and kind of capping it off so that we don't keep getting rained on. Plus, there's an ever-growing list of jobs that I need to get done and tidy up certain areas and certain farms and get them ready for terraforming. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.